30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the Angry Astronaut. Good afternoon to my viewers in Europe and Africa, and good very early morning or very late evening to my viewers in the Pacific Rim. Once again, welcome to this special broadcast from the Angry Astronaut, where we are going to be covering the first ever commercial mission after all this time for Virgin Galactic. And those of us who have been following this story since the beginning, since Spaceship One took flight almost 20 years ago, we've been waiting for this to happen. And we were expecting it to happen in 2008, way before SpaceX even flew a rocket. I mean, they've been spending a long time getting this ready, and it's encountered all kinds of issues, and now some would argue that it's not even really all that relevant anymore. But before we get into everything, first of all, Oki, thank you so much for the tenor. Very fantastic. Thanks. This is all deeply appreciated. By the way, everybody's support is really appreciated for everything that's coming up for this channel. So that having been said, where's everybody checking in from? We definitely need to check in with everybody. It's going to be about 28 minutes now before Virgin Galactic actually goes live. We want to make sure that we explain this mission as thoroughly as possible to everybody, to try to explain the importance of it, and to see what people are thinking about. We got 4 Marks UK. Hello. We got Ireland checking in again. We have Indianapolis in Belgium and Guildford. Hello, Andy. Thanks for checking in today. We have Ohio. We have Virginia, Northeast United Kingdom, and we have Spain. We have Somerset. The plane is in the air, apparently, says Matthew. Well, thank you very much for that update. I would assume NASA spaceflight is keeping up to date on that. We'll cover that here in just a moment. Hello, Texas, Tank Watchers. We have South Africa. We have Denmark, Montana, Arizona, Ohio, Bulgaria, Dorset. Hello, Dorset. Daytona Beach, Germany. We have Bury, UK. We have Houston, and then Texas, and then South Africa and Romania again. Hello. We seem to have people checking in for a lot from Eastern Europe. Appreciate that. Hello, India. Thank you very much. By the way, to my Indian viewers, I'm going to start doing more content about what's coming up with India, because India, as you guys know, and a lot of the rest of you should know, is on the cusp of sending humans into space themselves. Very, very soon that's going to be happening. So I'm going to be covering a lot of that content as well, including, I hope, at some point in the near future, a trip to India to cover some of these things in person. We have Gloucester Point, Virginia, Pennsylvania, we have Texas, the great state of Texas indeed. So, and let's see what else we got here. Yeah, big stuff coming up. So what's happening here with this mission today? A lot of people would argue that this is, much ado about nothing. It's a suborbital mission. Blue Origin's carried out a number of commercial suborbital missions at this point. And SpaceX, after all, has carried out a number of private missions utilizing Crew Dragon, orbital missions that have lasted for days. So what's the big deal? And yeah, you could definitely make that point. But this has been a very long process, a labor of love that started out with a contest back almost 20 years ago now, that was offered a cash bonus to anybody that could send a spacecraft, a manned spacecraft, into space, into suborbital space, then turn around and launch the same vehicle again. And the company that won that contest was Burt Rutan's company and Spaceship One. Not even Virgin Galactic at the time. Spaceship One successfully carried that out, back-to-back flights, and made it into suborbital space. The pilot was demonstrating all of the microgravity effects and all that. I remember that happening as if it was yesterday, and I guess that indicates just how old I am. That the fact that I do remember that as clearly as I do, and everybody was super excited. Space tourism was going to be happening in just a few years, and I would say that Sir Richard Branson might have been the inventor of Elon time. Richard Branson announced that commercial flights would begin with Spaceship Two, which is what we're going to be seeing flying today, by 2008. Is the announcement that was made at the time, 2008. And obviously, that is the most extreme example of Elon time ever, or Branson time, if we want to call it that. The process was immensely complicated. Virgin Galactic, of course, bought the ship, bought the rights, etc., incorporated it into their own little family of companies, the Virgin Group, and the problems began. And of course, one of those problems was the biggest problem, of course, was the tragic crash of the first iteration of Spaceship Two, as a result of pilot error, but more accurately, as a result of improper instructions. There was a process to where you had to lock down the wings for the feathering process that goes on as the ship goes into suborbital flight, and those controls were not properly activated, and as a result, the ship's aerodynamic capabilities got screwed up as it was trying to achieve orbit, and it crashed. And one of the pilots was killed. Other pilot did survive, but still, it put a huge hold on the entire process. And Virgin Galactic was found to at least be partially responsible for what had happened, that they had not properly trained the pilots on all of the important things that had to be done before any attempt was made to reach suborbital space. So it was an important lesson learned, and thank God it happened then, as opposed to happening to the ship where a bunch of passengers were on board. And so as a result, it took a lot longer to build a new ship, to go through a number of additional test flights. And the most recent of these, at least the one that involved a large number of passengers, was the test flight that took place this year. But the one that got the most media attention was the one where Sir Richard decided to get on the ship himself, along with Beth Moses, and who heads up the astronaut training side of things. She and her husband are actually run most of the details of that company, especially the safety side. They are very experienced spaceflight professionals, very safety focused. I think that they're good people to run this company. And as I say, Beth Moses herself has flown on several missions now. That all seemed to go very well. There was a minor problem where the ship ventured a little bit outside its flight path, but that was, a whole lot of fuss being made about nothing, in my opinion. Nobody was in any danger whatsoever during that slight mishap. There was certainly no air traffic in the region, the White Sands area where Virgin Galactic flies. That's always kept very clear of other aircraft. So there was no danger at all to the public. And then things got put on hold again. 2021, we were thinking, okay, Richard Branson flew, it's time to go. But instead, Virgin Galactic made the curious decision that they were going to go ahead and give Spaceship Two a complete overhaul, also known as the VSS Unity, by the way. Give that ship a complete overhaul, and that took a couple of years, almost exactly 2 years. And there's been a group of customers that have been waiting that entire time. An agreement was formulated with the passengers who are currently on Spaceship Two right now, and that is a group of 3 Italians. Once again, I will never be able to remember their name. They are representatives, just to be clear, they are representatives of the Italian Air Force. They're carrying out a scientific mission. Bear with me for just one moment, and because I want to make sure that I properly recognize them, although I'm sure I'm going to go ahead and mispronounce their names, but I just want to make sure that I get those details. I'm sorry, go ahead, producer. I didn't quite hear you there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so the individuals who are on this flight are all Italian Air Force officers, from my understanding. Walter Villadei, I think, and once again, I'm going to mispronounce this, but I'm sure I'm going to mess all this up. We have Angelo Landolfi, I believe, but I'm probably Landolfi, I believe is how it's pronounced. And then finally, Pantaleone Carlucci, I believe is how the last name is pronounced. In addition to that, we have Colin Bennett on board, Colin Bennett being a Virgin Galactic employee. So, and for all Italian viewers, I'm sure I butchered all those names, so I'm very sorry about that. But just to be clear, this is a scientific mission that was commissioned by Virgin Galactic, or by the Italian Air Force, rather, the Italian Space Agency, and they're going to be carrying out a number of experiments that are related to spaceflight. This is not only microgravity. They have a microgravity experiment that's related to biofuels, to see how biofuels perform in a microgravity environment. They also have a radiation sensor that is they're going to try to measure radiation levels in suborbital space, in this region between orbit, and traditional air flight and traditional commercial flights. And on top of that, there's also going to be an experiment in terms of the effects of high G forces on cardiovascular systems. That's 3 of the 13 experiments that are going to be taking place. So this is a serious mission. This is not space tourism, to be clear. Space tourism is indeed what Virgin Galactic intends to do for the most part, and they have sold hundreds of tickets and gotten pre-orders and cash advances and such for those tickets. But I think it's important, and I think that it's actually very good that Virgin Galactic is carrying out this mission first, because they want to demonstrate that this is much more than just a space tourism taxi, that this is a vehicle that can also carry out important experimental work at a very reasonable price. I mean, if you consider that you're looking at about $450,000 per ticket, we don't know how much the Italians paid for the entire mission, but assuming you just did a 6 times 450 or so, and you're looking at less than $3 million for the mission. That's pretty inexpensive. That's actually less money than most of the people who have been on the New Shepard flights have paid for one seat. And these guys have reserved the entire spacecraft for their own use. And if you wanted to carry out these kinds of experiments in orbit on a Crew Dragon, well, commissioning a Crew Dragon would cost well north of $60 million. You'd be looking at 20 times the expense. So if your microgravity experiments will allow you if your microgravity experiments can be carried out in about 4 to 5 minutes of microgravity, then this is a great solution for you. And as I say, there are more solutions besides just, there are more things that can be done on this flight besides just microgravity experiments, as I said before. Scientific measurements being taken at this particular altitude, this particular level of the Earth's atmosphere, because it is still in the upper levels of the atmosphere at this altitude, and also, as I said, the effects of high G forces on the human body. That's just a few examples of experiments that can be carried out. So what I'm saying is this is an important mission. This is a valid scientific mission that is going to put money in Virgin Galactic's coffers and also give an opportunity to other organizations, NASA and other space agencies that would like to carry out similar experiments on Spaceship Two. And obviously, since New Shepard carried a suite of experiments from NASA on an unmanned mission that long ago, that's the one that blew up, by the way. Clearly, there's an interest in carrying out these kinds of experiments on these sorts of flights. So Virgin Galactic can get into that entire into that competitive environment. So yeah, I think that there's some exciting stuff coming up for Virgin Galactic. But at the same time, I also need to emphasize the importance of this mission to the future of the company. It is absolutely vital that we do not have an anomaly here, even if it's an anomaly that that doesn't cause any danger to the crew, just a failure of the engine, and they have to glide the spacecraft back down for a safe landing. Even if they do all that, it's going to create a significant problem for the future of Virgin Galactic because they've been burning through money like crazy lately. And there's a good reason for that. One spaceship is not enough to sustain this company. They are moving forward with a new fleet of ships, more advanced versions of this spacecraft that are going to be carrying out flights, every week. So if you're going to be doing that, you need a fleet of ships, not just one. That certainly costs a lot of cash, and Virgin Galactic is burning through a lot of cash, and they definitely need to start getting cash back in their pockets. And I agree with that. Mark says that Virgin Galactic is better than the Bezos bungee jump. Yes, I think it is. I mean, talk about exciting, being dropped from a carrier aircraft, kind of like that Aliens dropship. We're on an express elevator to hell, going down. Yeah, that's just an awesome experience that I think would be far more exciting than the experience on the on New Shepard. Anton, thank you so much. Really do appreciate your support. Appreciate everybody's support. By the way, please don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Huge help to my channel to like and subscribe. Before I go any further, I'd also like to quickly mention that I am still toying with the idea of taking a tour of the United States before I go to Europe, and to give some lectures. Believe it or not, I used to give lectures in a previous life, and I'd like to. The theme of it, by the way, would be how Starship could save the world. That would be the theme of the lecture, and I'd like to travel the country and check that out. You guys could help with that. Let me tell you how. If any of you are familiar with any lecture halls, university space, classroom space, something like that, that would be willing to lease out that space for a very low price, because the more affordable I can get these things, the less I'm going to have to charge per ticket in order for people to come to the event. That would be deeply appreciated. My email is in the description. If any of you would like to help facilitate that, if you are in a major city in Denver, LA, or just a city with at least a population of 1 million people in the continental US, and you'd be interested in me coming to your town, please let me know if you have a space where that might be able to work. Okay, So enough about that. Let me go ahead and check the live stream Q&A on Discord. For those of you unfamiliar with that, my Patreon supporters and those who are Discord members, all of these people also have access to a Discord server that contains some unique content, special exclusive content, that sort of thing. And in addition to that, also get access to the Discord Q&A, the live stream Q&A. Let's see, what do we got here? All right. Yes, just to make sure, the payload, says Carl Thamel, the payload needs to be coupled to a Centaur style kick stage for geo insertion. Says, okay, just Discord's join activity function just result in this. All right, just wanted to make sure I was clear on all that. But just to be clear, guys, those who are on my Discord server, the live stream Q&A is up if you guys want to submit some questions there. Apparently those were from a few days ago. So, but if you want to participate on Discord, feel free. But I will go ahead and go back to the chat. We are about 10 minutes away from going live with Virgin Galactic. Just to be clear, once again, for those of you who don't know a lot about the process, there is a carrier aircraft called the Eve that carries the spacecraft up to an altitude of roughly about 40,000 feet or so. And then at that point, Spaceship Two is released from the carrier aircraft, engages a single engine, and that engine gets the crew up to about a speed of Mach 3.5 or so. And that allows them to achieve an altitude of over 50 miles, which in NASA's book is space. It isn't space as far as other people on the planet are concerned, but as far as the Air Force, as far as NASA is concerned, that is officially the boundary for space. So it achieves that sort of altitude. The wings go into a different sort of feathered configuration to be ready to re-enter the atmosphere and then to glide back down. The spaceship is in suborbital flight, in other words, in microgravity, for about 4 to 5 minutes. So during that time is when these Italian astronauts are going to need to do their work and do it very quickly. And then after they're done, then the ship re-enters and glides back down for a safe landing. They've carried out this experiment now, or this work many times. Virgin Galactic has now carried out quite a number of flights, and most of them, aside from that one, have gone that took place 10 years ago now. Everything else has gone very smoothly. They have a very good reliability record. But that doesn't mean anything in the world of space flight. You can have a great reliability record and something can still go wrong. The events that happened with New Shepard are a clear indicator of that. New Shepard had a flawless record right up to the point to where it didn't. So the experiments what are the experiments? Once again, to repeat, there are 13 different experiments loaded onto the ship, a wide variety of experiments, but I'll give you a few examples. One of them is they're going to test the effects of high G forces on the human cardiovascular system. Number two, they're going to take measurements of radiation levels at this particular altitude. Not a lot of tests are done at this particular altitude. A lot of stuff in orbit, a lot of stuff in further down in the atmosphere, not as much here. So they're going to do some experiments on that. And in addition to that, they're also going to test the effects of microgravity on biofuels. Probably something in regards to transferring fuels, transferring liquids in microgravity, which is a very difficult thing to do. Something that obviously is going to be very important to the future of Starship. LEO refueling in microgravity is all going to be an extremely important thing, but a total of 13 experiments on board. So yeah, as I say, an important scientific mission. Future ones are likely to be similar. I would say that there's a good chance that future passengers on Spaceship Two are likely to be, or VSS Unity, whatever you want to call it, are likely to have their own experiments along with them. Some of these people may be just rich people along for a joyride, but some of them may be people who are sponsored by a university, sponsored by some sort of scientific organization who want to carry out some sort of experiment in microgravity. And that's something that Virgin Galactic can facilitate. So I would say that this sort of thing is going to happen a lot in the future. And very excited by all of that. Thank you so much, Cameron. Really, crypto and stocks. Really do appreciate that, and happy to cover it indeed. And once again, thanks to everybody for your support, and also many other ways to support this channel in the description. And again, to repeat, if you guys, if there's anybody in a major city in the U.S. who has a meeting space, a space for me to perhaps give a lecture on this tour that I may or may not do here in the next couple of months, please let me know. Pardon, please repeat. Okay, so we have nothing to view currently. Obviously, also, as we know, VSS Eve, the carrier aircraft, is currently in flight, has now passed the 40,000 foot mark. So we are very close to this moment of release. Very, very cool stuff coming really soon. Once again, Godspeed to these people. This is dangerous. There's no question about that. There was a casualty on a previous flight, not of this particular ship, but of its sister ship. So there is a risk involved in this, no question at all. So let's hope that everything goes smoothly and everybody's okay. Michael, thank you so much for your support. We have it rising above 42,000 feet at this point. Getting exciting. I'll tell you, I'm feeling tense because I've been waiting for this, as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, for nearly 20 years. I was very excited to see Spaceship One take flight, for it to fly successfully in back-to-back missions, etc. That was an awesome thing. And I was certainly hoping at the time that these kinds of commercial missions would be a reality in 2008. That's not the case. Obviously, Virgin Galactic has had its share of problems. Also had an engine explosion that killed employees as well. This has been a project that's been fraught with difficulty, fraught with challenges. So, this is super important. The future of this company rests almost entirely on the success of this mission. It's extremely important that this goes off without a hitch. So we will see what ends up happening. But I'll tell you, I am fired up, and I hope that they are equally fired up. Now there are, of course, many safety factors engaged in the construction of Spaceship Two. This ship, if there is a complete failure of all systems, if the engine fails, if anything fails on this, it is capable of gliding safely back home. It's, as a matter of fact, they've tested this capability quite a number of times. The only thing that would really present a serious threat to this spacecraft is, of course, if the engine blows up. That would be a game over situation. Or if something happens to completely undermine the structural integrity of the craft. That would be a highly unlikely thing at this point, given how exhaustively this thing has been tested. And I have to admit, there's been quite a number of comparisons that have been made lately between Spaceship Two and Virgin Galactic and the Titan submarine, and I am frankly offended by that. There's no comparison to be made whatsoever. I can only imagine how pissed off the Virgin Galactic people are. This ship is extremely well constructed. It's constructed out of the best materials for the job. It has been exhaustively tested before they put in, anybody at risk on this thing. This is a much safer craft. The Titan submarine was constructed out of carbon fiber that had actually been discarded by Boeing as being no longer structurally valid anymore for the types of work that they do. For some reason, they thought it'd be a good idea to take discarded carbon fiber for the submarine, and it was never a great idea to use carbon fiber on a submersible anyway, especially a submersible going down this deep. And this isn't my own expertise here. This is all the reading that I've been doing lately from former submariners and people who have been involved in the engineering and design of submarines. The thing was just dangerous. It was a death trap. And it's very unfortunate that it was allowed to continue doing these very risky expeditions, and I feel very bad for the people who lost their lives, including the fellow responsible for the whole thing. He paid the ultimate price as well. Michael, thank you so much. Really do appreciate that. And says that the will help Virgin Galactic by opening up for zero-G NAS training flights. Yes, indeed. That's one thing. This kind of experience, this kind of sustained time in microgravity is much more valuable than a flight on a Vomit Comet. On the Vomit Comet, you can only spend a few minutes in, or rather a few seconds, about 30 seconds in microgravity at any time, any sustained period. This is a much longer period of time in microgravity. Plus, you're also being exposed to high G forces and other things that are characteristic of space flight, something that you wouldn't experience on a Vomit Comet kind of training flight, or one of these other spacecraft or aircraft rather that are used to simulate microgravity. Training flights are going to become a big part of the future of Virgin Galactic again, if this mission goes well. Everything really depends on it. This is a tense moment for a lot of people, up to and including Virgin Galactic stockholders. And by the way, I'm one of those, and I'm not giving any sort of investment advice here, nor do I really have a lot of stock in Virgin Galactic. But nevertheless, it's important for all of them. So, okay. Apparently on Reddit, there's a lot of people talking about this, if the mission is successful, then the stock price is going to spike, and then everybody's going to dump their stock and make, short-term money. Personally, I think that's a dumb idea, because I think that Virgin Galactic has a bright future ahead. I certainly don't intend to do that. But I will also say that I have a lot more invested in Rocket Lab than I have in Virgin Galactic. Once again, not giving financial advice, because I certainly don't know a damn thing about investing. I take my cues from people who are much better at this. Let's move on. So we're just past the 11 o'clock mark. Virgin Galactic was supposed to be going live at this point. But my understanding is they haven't quite done that yet. I'm not sure if they're encountering any challenges. Of course, a lot needs to be done. They need to be absolutely certain that this is a safe flight, that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, that everything is properly prepared. This mission absolutely has to go off without a hitch. And if they see anything that they don't like, they're going to scrub this thing. No question. They are not going to take any chances at all with the mission, with these Italian astronauts or future Italian astronauts, or with their employee on board as well. My O-ring is twitching. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to hop back over to the live stream Q&A, see if anything. Looks like Darth Rust has joined our group, and he's making a comment or a question or something in the live stream Q&A. Once again, for Discord members, people who are supporters either on Patreon or members through YouTube, whatever, then there's access to you have access to my Discord server, which gives a lot of exclusive content and other benefits. Neat stuff. But in any event, all that's in the description if you're interested in being part of that. Still waiting on Virgin Galactic to go live. The aircraft still flying. Interesting how its path has changed a bit. I'm kind of wondering what they have in mind right now. Once again, all this is speculation. we can't be certain as to what they're doing right now. Once again, if they see anything that they don't like, if they see, one detail that they're not comfortable with, they'll scrub this thing, bring the plane back down, and give it another shot. Darth says if they follow the same normal flight path, it'll have to circle back up to the north and launch on a southbound direction. Then they'll turn back south just once they are north of the mountains at the top of the map above the bluish marker. Thank you so much for that clarification, Darth Rust, one of our best technical advisors on my Discord server, a part of Team Angry. He's been heavily engaged in the spaceflight industry for many years. Great guy. And somebody, by the way, can have a chance to meet on the Discord server. For those of you who are members, please reach out to him. He's definitely a good guy. Virgin Galactic now rising above 45,000 feet. So if they're continuing their climb, that means that they are still looking at launching very soon. ASN, my good producer in Yorkshire, my faithful producer, he says that people are still skeptical about space tourism, often quick to forget that NASA opened up low Earth orbit for business last year. Over the next 10 years, commercial space flight will become the norm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Very exciting stuff coming with commercial space flight and space tourism. They're serving drinks now. Hello back to you, by the way, Freedom, Kentucky. Thanks very much for tuning in. Over 250 people tuned in. Thanks very much for joining me on this momentous day for space flight. Something we've been waiting a very long time for. And once again, please like and please subscribe. All that very important to the success of this channel. Okay. Once again, we were expecting to go live with Virgin Galactic. Have not yet done so. Interesting. All right. Yeah, all there is a currently they are live, but they have a splash animation, which of course shows us nothing. So until VG actually has something to show us, then there's no reason to head on over there. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's check. Okay. Once again, checking on the scrub situation. Do we have a scrub mission? This is totally unconfirmed right now. Let's hope not, but it could be. Right? Hold on. I'm going to check too. Going to check for confirmation on this to see if we have a scrub. Hopefully not, but it could happen. Once again, they see one thing they don't like, and they are going to scrub it. Nothing yet, nothing official from Virgin Galactic. At least not from what I'm looking at. So stay tuned, guys. We have certainly no confirmation that there is a scrub. Not yet. Countdown has begun. So no, we do not have a scrub. That the rumors of the scrub have been greatly exaggerated. We are now just over 4.5 minutes from going live, and I don't know how long we're going to go from the live stream starting to the point where they release the spacecraft, but probably not a whole lot of time between those two events. So here we go. At least let's hope. Let's hope that things go well here. As I say, I'm tense. I'm sure lots of other people are tense. Certainly the people at Virgin Galactic are tense. This is a very important moment for the future of this company, and also for the future of space tourism, suborbital space flight, because without Virgin Galactic, the only other company that we really have consistently doing suborbital space flight and suborbital space tourism is Blue Origin and New Shepard. I certainly don't want to see them securing a monopoly on that, because they charge a lot more than $450,000 per seat. And I honestly don't think that it's nearly as exciting of of an event either. So we will see. Is well prepared, maybe too prepared. Says, yeah, that's very true. No paying passengers on the last two missions. Yeah, Fiji has been really cautious about all this. Now, I mean, again, to be fair, New Shepard flew many times before it carried a paying customer too. So yeah, safety is an important thing. We haven't had a paying customer die on a space tourism mission yet. We haven't had a paying customer get exposed to serious inconvenience yet. So yeah, I think that we've got some. Let's certainly hope that that trend continues today. Okay, here we go. Yeah, production team doesn't know. Space Font. Okay, I'm sorry. I was keeping up with what Andy was saying. But for those of you who don't know, Andy Law works for Everyday Astronaut with Tim Dodd. Does some great work with him, and he's nice enough to join us here on my live streams. But yeah, he is Tim's man on the ground in Britain. All right, 2 minutes to go before the live stream starts, and I suspect that that we're going to have a release and an ignition very shortly after this live stream goes. I don't think that they're going to spend a yeah. Yeah, they might want to be sure that they're not showing, as my producer brings up, they may not want to show a great deal of what's happening until they actually do the drop. So, you know, a scrub would be even more disappointing if you watch the plane fly around for a long time and then only just get a scrub. It's far more exciting if you come in just as the action is about to start. So we will see. It looks like they're not in a position yet to where they can do the drop. As we were recently informed by Darth Rust, the carrier plane needs to have turned around and start heading south again before the drop can be carried out, in order to make sure that Spaceship Two flies its anticipated flight path. Let's go ahead and get a producer. Let's go ahead and put their audio on, unless and I'll cut in and tell you to mute them if they're talking about stuff that isn't particularly interesting. But no, let's go ahead and have their audio on. Please do. Once again, my fantastic producer in Yorkshire, ASN, another space nut, taking care of so much on these live streams. We'd be completely lost without him. So everybody express your appreciation to ASN. Here we go. Here we go.
Only is it Virgin Galactic's first commercial flight, our start of commercial service will carry a team of mission specialists and payloads from the Italian Air Force to space from Spaceport America, the home of Virgin Galactic in beautiful Sierra County, New Mexico. We are excited to take you on this journey with us and provide you with coverage of today's space flight. Hello, everyone, and ciao to all of our viewers in Italy today. I'm Sirisha Bandla, and I will be your host for today's flight, along with our Mission Insight Specialist, Jonathan Ritchie. Our Mission Insight Specialist is a new role, giving us live updates from our Mission Control Center, giving you, our viewer, an even more engaging experience. JR, what's up?
What an exciting day. It's a pleasure to be here in the studio with you. I'm excited for today's flight, and I'm looking forward to sharing this journey with all of our viewers across the globe.
Now, today's flight is in collaboration with the Italian Air Force and the National Research Council. The mission is called Virtute 1, both an acronym for Volo Italiano per la ricerca e la tecnologia suborbitale, or Italian Flight for Suborbital Research and Technology, and the Latin word for virtue that is also in the Italian Air Force motto, Virtute Siderum Tenis, with virtue to the stars. Now, today's flight is already well underway. Our crew on board our spaceship Unity took off, mated to our mothership Eve at around 8:30 a.m. Today will be our 6th space flight and the start of our commercial service, when we take research and private astronauts to space, having successfully completed our thorough flight test program with Unity 25 in May. Virgin Galactic space flights can be carrying our future astronauts for the spaceflight experience or researchers conducting science. This flight will also be the first solely dedicated to research, and Unity is carrying multiple research payloads, which are experiments that are worn by the mission specialists or installed on the rack on board, which will be gathering data and running an array of scientific tests during the spaceflight. Our spaceflight systems can carry both humans and research experiments to space, or both on the same flight. Wherever there is a seat in our spacecraft, it can be removed and replaced with a payload rack. These racks hold payloads that are typically scientific experiments or instruments that will gather data while in space. Today, our cabin has both seats and a payload rack to allow our mission specialists to maximize the research they conduct on board. The Italian Air Force and the National Research Council's mission will include more than a dozen payloads, which will be examining a spectrum of research spanning from the biomedical field, thermofluid dynamics, to the development of innovative and sustainable materials in microgravity conditions, leading to space technology to continue the innovation of human spaceflight in future vehicles and here on Earth. Now, our vehicle system is uniquely positioned to carry out this incredible science, contributing to our curiosity surrounding the cosmos, as well as increasing our understanding of our very own planet. The work done in space gets invested back into the people here on Earth. Now, I could talk about the science all day, but let's first check in with the vehicles and see how we're progressing. JR?
Yeah. Earlier this morning, we saw a perfect takeoff here from our runway at Spaceport America and beginning our mission specialist ascent to release altitude. Mothership Eve is currently continuing that climb with Spaceship Unity on its way to the target launch altitude, which for today is 45,000 feet. In addition to a launch altitude, we'll also be releasing at a designated launch point within the airspace. So while you may see we are already at that launch altitude, we get there rather quickly, we'll continue to complete our flight path until we reach that designated launch point. Everything's looking great. Like I said, we're at 45,000 feet now, and it's just a beautiful view you get from there up there. I can imagine the crew is taking it all in.
It'd be nice to see something besides the model.
Get closer and closer to that big moment. Sarisha, you can provide us with some unique perspective here, having flown on our first Unity crewed test flight. Does this bring back memories?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I went to space on Unity 22, one of the crew I went to space with that went with me was Colin. So it's really, really thrilling to see him go back to space a second time. We took moments along the way to soak it all in. The journey of space, I mean, it begins well before takeoff, and actually, it lasts well after we'll stop. And seeing all these moments in like the climb where the energy and the anticipation is high, it really contributes to that incredibly holistic experience that Virgin Galactic is bringing to the world. Now, a special shout out for our mothership Eve, a truly unique aircraft designed specifically for these missions. The role that Eve plays in Virgin Galactic space flights is one of the key unique design innovations of our system, and we call it air launch. Most flights you see start with a vertical takeoff from the ground. This requires a huge amount of energy to lift the vehicle from a static start up through the thickest parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Our air launch system allows the spaceship attached to the mothership to take off from a runway like that of a commercial aircraft. This takeoff allows the passengers to have a much smoother and more comfortable ascent as they make their way up to around 45,000 feet. And at that altitude, the Earth's atmosphere is much thinner, requiring less energy to launch. At our designated launch point, our mothership releases the spaceship, the rocket motor ignites, and our crew begin their rapid and exciting ascent towards space. Now, speaking of the crew, let's see who's on board today's flight. Our pilots at Virgin Galactic don't just fly the vehicles, they're deeply embedded in every decision we make surrounding their development. Having our pilots ingrained into every facet of our vehicle operations allows us to get a dual perspective. They work alongside our engineering teams on a daily basis to ensure that we're able to optimize our vehicles' performance, combining the learnings they get from flying them with our knowledge and data on the ground, providing the unique insight that helps us continually progress and enhance our vehicle operation. And today, we have a few familiar faces and, of course, some new ones too. Let's begin with the folks who are supporting today's flight in the chase plane, giving us visuals on the spaceflight system while airborne. In the chase plane, we've got Dan Alex, who has completed over 2,600 hours of flying.
It's important to note that the controls for the carrier aircraft and Spaceship Two itself are similar. They're actually designed to be similar so that people can train on the carrier aircraft first before they graduate to becoming
Jamil is
spaceship
joined by
pilots.
Kelly Latimer, who has logged more than 6,700 hours in her 32-year flying career.
The crew of the spaceship have a unique structure for CRM, or crew resource management. The left seat pilot is the commander, and the right seat is referred to
mute him real quick,
as...
I'll repeat that.
But the commander and the pilot have specific actions that they perform.
Okay, just to quickly reiterate, guys, what I just said, the controls on the carrier aircraft on Eve mirror the controls that are on Spaceship Two. They're very similar so that you can do training of new pilots on the carrier aircraft before they transition over to Spaceship Two. So it's an interesting training process, but we'll get back to Virgin Galactic now.
The region of Friuli in northeast Italy. As you can see, our passengers today will be flown into space by some of the most accomplished and experienced pilots in the world. Now, joining our mission specialist in the cabin is our astronaut instructor and fellow Unity 22 crewmate, Colin Bennett. In his role, as this is our first dedicated research mission, he'll be calling out cabin instructions and mission phases while evaluating to continually improve our customers' experience. And of course, joining Colin in the cabin of Spaceship Unity today are incredible 3 mission specialists. First, we have Walter Villadei of the Italian Air Force, commander of the Virtute 1 mission. Colonel Villadei is a space engineer and cosmonaut that will be serving as today's mission lead. His role will be to tend to the rack-mounted payloads during the weightlessness portion of today's flight. He will also be wearing cutting-edge smart suit that will measure his biometric data and his physiological responses. Next up, we have Angelo Landolfi, who is a physician for the Italian Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel Landolfi will be conducting tests that measure cognitive performance in microgravity. He will also be activating syringe payloads from his seat that will investigate how certain liquids and solids mix in microgravity. Our third mission specialist is Pantaleone Carlucci, who is an aerospace engineer and researcher for the National Research Council. Carlucci will be wearing sensors that examine heart rate, brain function, and other human performance metrics in microgravity, and will also be conducting these experiments from his seat. All 3 are contributing to exciting research and technology development with unique experiments. Once cleared to unstrap, 2 mission specialists will likely stay seated to conduct their work, while Walter will be unstrapped, tending to experiments in the back. Now, JR, let's take a break and get an update from our crew who's on Eve and Unity.
Certainly. So, Sarisha, I've just heard from our MCC that the L-10 checks have been accomplished and complete. We are about 8.5 minutes right now away from release.
Now, if you're just joining us, L-10 means we're approximately 10 minutes out from the moment Mothership Eve releases Spaceship Unity, and this is based on the estimated time of arrival to the release point. So again, as JR said, timing may vary a little, but as the closer we get to the release point, the more accurate the estimate becomes.
Yeah. So up until L-10, Eve is in full mothership mode, carrying Spaceship Unity to altitude and providing her with electrical power, system heat, cabin pressurization, and that includes conditioned air cooled on the ground in hot summer days like today and heated at high altitudes to keep our pilots and passengers comfortable. At L-10, Spaceship Unity switches to her own battery power for avionics, that's the electrical systems on board, and control systems, and performs a series of checks, electrical checks, feather system checks, flight control checks, and more. Unity and Eve have their own intercom, so the pilots in each vehicle are coordinating with one another during these checks. You know, what's exciting about Virgin Galactic's spaceflight system is that it's powered by truly innovative tech while it also being a piloted system, being flown by some of the best and most experienced pilots in the world. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to attract the incredible team that we have. They get to pilot a spacecraft that's arguably one of the most unique vehicles in the world.
Thanks, JR. I mean, at Virgin Galactic, we believe in the power of curiosity. It is the driving force that compels us to wonder, to constantly ask questions, and to relentlessly seek the answers. Let's hear from some of the team about how curiosity is propelling the second space age.
Okay. Yeah, we had to get rid of the audio right now because copyrighted music is being played right now. I'm not allowed to do that if we have that sort of music. But as you can see here, Colin Bennett was on that flight with, I believe, with Sir Richard Branson. And of course, then we had that recent flight as well. Interestingly, Beth Moses is not on this flight. She's transitioning some of these responsibilities over to her other staff, which is a good thing. She's gotten to fly quite a number of times now. So this is an exciting thing. I mean, I tell you, it'd be very exciting to work for Virgin Galactic and to get these sorts of opportunities. So a lot of these people have experienced suborbital flight at this point. And now this is finally going to get transitioned to non-Virgin Galactic employees for the first time. We've been waiting, obviously, for a very long time for this. So very exciting indeed. And now we are just a few minutes away. And from the time of drop, all right, audio going back on, just so you know, from the time of drop to landing will be about 10 minutes. That's about the entire time it takes, 10, 11 minutes for the whole mission to be completed.
They are using the suborbital space lab to the fullest. One of the experiments being conducted on board today is the neuroplasticity experiment. This is a passive experiment consisting of cell culture flasks containing human neural cells in cultures that will fly in a pocket of the researcher's flight suit. The experiment will test the ability to maintain stem cells in culture during suborbital flight and test the early effects of hypergravity, or high Gs, and microgravity, or low Gs, on neuroplasticity, which is the ability for cells to adapt to their environment. Data from this flight will be used for insight into physiology and pathology, but also be used to investigate biological processes for human spaceflight future missions, and to study and develop new agents for therapeutic purposes for people here on Earth. Now, this is just one of many experiments on board for this mission the crew will be looking after. And speaking of the crew, JR, can we get an update?
Yeah, so we're about 4 minutes out currently at this point, and the pilots are ensuring the spaceship is in the launch configuration after going through the various L-10 checks, confirming that all the settings are go for launch. This is also when Spaceship Unity will isolate the air supply from Eve and prime the rocket motor by opening the backup oxidizer valve. Once these actions are complete, the pilots will seek clearance from the MCC, that's shorthand for the Mission Control Center, for release. So MCC it consists of experts from various disciplines and departments across the company, and they're verifying checks with our crew every step of the way. I don't know about you all, but I can feel the anticipation building just watching the screen. I can only imagine what it would be like to be on board right now. It must be incredibly exciting.
Exciting is definitely an understatement at this point. You're just anticipating the release. I can't imagine what the crew is feeling. And they're anticipating the release and really everything that happens afterward. So maybe, JR, you could give us a quick overview of the profile?
Yeah, after release, the crew lights the rocket motor, and Unity's trajectory to space begins in that horizontal release position before turning towards space, a maneuver we call the gamma turn. The rest of the rocket motor burn will occur in the vertical, and everything after release through the completion of the rocket motor burn is called boost. Boost is only one of multiple phases of flight that our unique system experiences. After boost is feather. Now, sometimes when we say feather, we mean the tails of the spaceship, and sometimes we're referring to moving these tails into what we call the feathered configuration. It can be confusing, but I'll try to be clear what I mean when I say feathered today. So, due to the law of conservation of momentum, feathering the vehicle, that's rotating the tails to 60 degrees, causes the cabin of Unity to start a backflip maneuver as it approaches our next phase, apogee. And this backflip is a key part of the experience because it maximizes the view of the Earth below. Our pilots use the RCS, that's a reaction control system, to hold the spaceship in that attitude. And then at the right time, the pilots will again use the RCS to continue that backflip all the way around. This prepares the vehicle for re-entry. In the feathered configuration, the vehicle presents a large area of the wing to the atmosphere, allowing our system to burn off energy while still high in the thin atmosphere. And then after re-entry, the feather is once again lowered and locked, turning Unity into a glider. It's in this configuration that the pilots will fly back to Spaceport America in what we refer to as the glide phase. You see, our system is capable of acting like a capsule when that's most beneficial, and acting like a glider when that's most beneficial. Now, MCC's in my ear, they're telling us we're 1 minute away from release.
1 minute.
Our next set and our last set of checks before release are L-30. That's 30 seconds to release. And Spaceship Unity pilots will arm the launch pylon. And once we get to that designated launch point, the mothership pilots will engage the release, setting Unity free.
Godspeed, guys.
The spaceship pilots will push forward on the stick all the way, preparing for a release. We're now approximately 20 seconds from release.
Here we go, guys.
10, 5, 3, 2, 1, release, release, release.
No release. Nope, there we go.
Ignition.
Go, 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 go.
Good
Phenomenal.
control.
Woo!
Trimming, that's pulling the nose up.
Go, 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 go.
And trim is set. We're now
Good,
traveling at
looking
approximately
good.
Mach 1.4. There's max Q, that's the maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle. Those on board are experiencing about 3 Gs at the moment.
Everything looking
The trim is
fantastic
complete
right
and
now.
Unity is in
Yes.
the vertical headed
Go,
towards
go, go.
space. Mach 2.
Beautiful so far. Beautiful so far. Come on, guys. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Mach 2.8, rocket motor cutoff.
Amazing.
We've got Miko.
All right. Predicted apogee today is 275,000 feet. That's 84.3 kilometers.
Incredible.
A lot of the tough stuff is over at this point. Engine
Our mission
performed
specialists have been cleared to
magnificently.
unstrap and enjoy the zero-G experience.
This is amazing. What you're seeing is Colonel Villaday going to the back to tend to the payloads that are mounted on the rack. You can see Landolfi and Leo starting their experiments in their seat and having, looks like, a great time, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
feather
different
is
from
moving,
previous
as you can
missions. These
see.
guys are hard at work getting these
Starting that
experiments
backflip
done
maneuver
in the
I
few
spoke
minutes
of.
that they have at their disposal.
Amazing. And viva la Italia!
All right.
This is
what an
100
awesome
years for
moment.
the Italian
What
Air
a
Force.
great
Happy
moment.
Centennial to the Air Force. This is absolutely incredible. And welcome to space, astronauts. How absolutely incredible. Benvenuto nello spazio. Congratulations to Walter, Angelo, and Leo on becoming astronauts today. And a special congratulations to our pilot, Nicola, for his first space flight. Welcome
Cynic,
back
you're
to
absolutely
space.
right. I wish I was there.
This is absolutely incredible.
Wonderful.
You can see I'm tripping over my words because I can see
You're
all
excited.
the excitement here.
Very different from
And we've
previous
also
missions.
trained our
Nobody
astronauts
bouncing
to
around having fun for the most part. We got people hard at work getting their jobs done. Very cool.
So you're seeing them take a look and really reflect and take in the view, because all of the science and all of the research that they're conducting on board is for that vehicle, for that planet that they're looking out on. It's really that science and research being invested back into this planet, and it's important for them to reflect and see where their hard work is going.
Right. We have achieved apogee at 85.1 kilometers or 279,000 feet.
Incredible.
The pilots are currently completing the backflip maneuver, orienting the vehicle for reentry. Now, just before 0.1 Gs, the pilots will give that return to seats call to the mission specialists. And our training team has worked this portion of the flight out so that it's very natural and intuitive for our passengers. You know, when we talk about space travel, a lot of people know and they expect the boost portion of flight to be loud and thrilling, and of course it is. But what's interesting is that the reentry is actually
they're all jumping back into their harnesses now. They got their jobs done. They're getting back at it.
Form on top of the cabin, and those are audible to those inside.
Predictably professional behavior from the Italian Air Force.
Here at Spaceport
Looking
America,
good.
watching from the ground, you should hear a double sonic boom as Spaceship Unity once again breaks the sound barrier. We're currently at Mach 2.5.
Incredible.
And just back to 1G as we begin reentry.
And those views
So
are just
beautiful.
Absolutely amazing.
Just gorgeous up there. Yes. Thank you so much. What about it? Really appreciate you joining us today.
So for reentry,
thank you
we're
so
now
much.
At about 3.6 Gs for those on board. The crew will.
Those of you, our friends at What About It, have joined us today. Please keep their channel in mind.
Out of reentry and feather down will be pointed toward spaceport. We're now subsonic and at 75,000 feet.
And the unique part of our design is as a vehicle that can get into this feathered configuration. We're a glider, we're a rocket, we're a glider, and we're a capsule at the right phases of flight that help our unique design be safe and effective for the mission.
Kind of a rough re-entry now through the atmosphere.
We're at 61,000 feet now, continuing to descend in the feathered configuration. When we get down to about 53,000
they are just plunging. Look at that.
Lower of the feather again and reconfigure the vehicle back into a glider.
I mean, they are just plummeting towards the Earth. Man, what an experience this must be before they're able to configure the ship into a proper glide mode.
It has the ability to also conduct science. Our payloads that are on the rack are conducting and recording data all the way through each phase of flight. So you get hypergravity and low gravity data and that transition in between.
The feather is almost completed. The feather down. It is now down.
Now, feather down means that they've gone from space capsule to glide mode. So now they're ready to catch the atmosphere and then safely glide. As you can see, wings deployed for a safe return.
On the flight are supported by an incredible team on the ground from both the
Man, I couldn't have imagined a better flight than this so far. Looking great. Dominic, thank you so much for your support. Appreciate it.
Incredible capability that is being opened up by suborbital vehicles like our own spaceflight system. One of the researchers utilizing this capability to the fullest is here with us in the studio. I'm so excited. A future astronaut, a friend, and a space researcher, Kelly Girardi. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I gotta ask.
Thanks so much, Cynic.
This
in theory, they could, if they get a spaceport properly prepared for this kind of spacecraft. Yes, there's no reason. As a matter of fact, Spaceport Cornwall wanted to attract Virgin Galactic first before they ended up with Virgin Orbit. If we could silence the VG people for just a moment, there's another quick point I wanted to make. Let me know, producer, when that's done.
Release. I burst into tears, and I'm glad that my mic was off during the live cast, but it's the profundity of human spaceflight, and I'm so ready to be on the other side of this live stream.
It's incredible. I mean, this is my 6th spaceflight, and you probably saw I was tripping over my words. I just couldn't get it.
Producer may have had to step away momentarily. Just want to let you guys know that. Oh, if we could mute VG real quick. Okay. Just a quick comment about Strato launch. A question was asked about that. The company is largely responsible for the creation of Spaceship 2, Spaceship 1 in the first place. They are, of course, very much in operation. They're the ones with the biggest spacecraft, or aircraft rather, ever having been constructed. And they recently picked up the Cosmic Girl 747. They acquired that. They saw the value in it, and they are actually going to be using it to carry some of their new hypersonic test aircraft and hypersonic space planes. So yeah, Stratolaunch still very much around. They saw the value in Virgin Orbit's technology and grabbed some of it. We are very close to touchdown right now, just a couple of minutes away from Spaceship 2. It's a very quick process. We are not too far away from the moment to where Spaceship 2 will be touching down at Spaceport America in New Mexico. Yeah, we can go ahead and re-engage the audio for VG.
But to really validate it, you need high quality microgravity and you need longer duration exposure to microgravity. You need to be in space. And so I'm really looking forward to the availability of Virgin Galactic as a platform, not just for the scientific community, but for academia, for students, for so many. So I'm so excited to get to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you did not plant this question. Everyone watching should not plant this question, but Kelly, I loved your book, not necessarily rocket science.
I did not plant that question.
But part of the appeal of suborbital vehicles is really opening up the aperture.
Thank you, Dennis, Denise. Appreciate your help.
And this is just another science lab for people to utilize to further whatever field of research that they're in. Can you talk about some of the other research fields that are utilizing these kinds of capabilities, maybe even at IAAS?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really multidisciplinary. It's not just space science. My colleagues come from such a wide variety of backgrounds and fields of research. I've been particularly motivated by some of my colleagues who are doing research related in space, related to the quality of human life here on Earth, human health and well-being, whether that's biomedical or pharmaceutical research, or even new ways to approach telemedicine or, technical instruction for remote or extreme environments. I just think those are use cases that are so compelling and interesting to me to really use space to benefit life here on Earth.
It's absolutely amazing. And I love how you speak about this industry because you've been an advocate and a part of this industry for a while. And can you talk about what drew you to the commercial space side?
Yeah, absolutely. I have long been an evangelist for the commercial spaceflight industry, and I've really been inspired by it. I have a deeply rooted belief in the potential of this industry to open up access to space, to truly democratize access to space, certainly for science communities and for the research community like myself and the crew of Galactic 01, but also for civilians of all disciplines.
So we can see Spaceship 2 now well below the clouds. We are moments away from touchdown.
The talents of artists, engineers, and everyone in between. Space is our shared past and our shared future, and that's why I wrote not necessarily rocket science.
Okay, well, we're going to be getting to landing soon, but I wanted to ask if you had any parting thoughts before
I
release
Felix, you're saying super kind things. Thank you so much for your compliments. Really appreciate that. Once again, guys, make sure you head over to What About It, like and subscribe if you haven't already done that. Their coverage of what happens, especially with SpaceX, is tremendous.
And regular commercial operations, but to me, it will never get old.
Oh my God, thank you so much for joining us here.
I'm going to run down and welcome that crew back.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, this is just an absolutely exciting time.
It's amazing how quick this process goes. You can see the beautiful New Mexico terrain, the beautiful New Mexico landscape below.
Let's check in with our crew on their descent back to Earth.
Absolutely. So we are just over 11,000 feet. For those of you here on site, Unity just crossed over the field and is making another circle around in the pattern, beginning those landing approach, passing the waypoints that we've designated as part of our energy management plan. So the pilots have joined up with Chase in the pattern, and they're discussing that energy management plan. They're going to be landing today on runway 34. That means from south to north. And for those non-pilots tuning in, those numbers represent the first two numbers on the magnetic heading of the compass for the runway direction. So for example, 34 is 340 degrees. The landing gear is now down and locked. We have 3 green. That means all gear are down and locked.
Keep in mind,
And
we're very
making
close.
our
New
final
Mexico is
approach
substantially
to the runway here
above
at
sea
Spaceport
level.
America.
So even though you're seeing
We like to make
8,000,
left-hand turns
7,000
for our
feet,
approach.
et
That's because
cetera,
the
that's
commander
actually
is
a
in the left
bit
seat, and that provides
deceiving
the best line
because
of sight for them
this
as they come
runway
into the
is
landing.
significantly above sea level.
Now, the runway here at Spaceport America is 12,000 feet long. That's 3.7 kilometers and 200 feet wide, or 61 meters.
We have a
1,000 feet above the
freeze in
runway.
the camera. Here we go. Here we go. Everything looking smooth.
500 feet.
Come on, guys.
Over the threshold, that's the beginning of the runway. And you'll see the pilots hold the nose up. That's a
Beautiful
flare maneuver, all part of the energy management.
Beautiful.
Main gear touchdown. So the pilots will continue to hold the nose gear in the air as we continue to bleed off some energy as we run down the runway. And at the designated airspeeds, they will lower the nose gear as well.
Everything's looking, boy, this could not have
Nose
gone
gear's
any
down.
better. This was textbook, at least from what I
Now,
could see.
as our ground speed
Textbook.
slows, when we reach a designated
Beautiful.
ground speed, the pilots will apply
What a
brakes
beautiful
and bring
ship.
the vehicle to a complete stop.
Magnificent.
All right, braking now.
There we go. Producer, we can go ahead and mute them at this point.
And there's
We muted. Okay. All right. Just again, boy, this could not have been more flawless. I mean, at least from what I can observe, we're going to have to, of course, see the post-flight analysis to see if there may have been, some venturing outside the predicted flight path or something along those lines. But everything that I'm gathering from what I saw compared to previous flights, this could not have gone any better. This was a beautiful, fantastic first commercial flight for Virgin Galactic. And also to see all of the Italian Air Force personnel hard at work doing some very good and serious science while experiencing an amazing flight at the same time. I can't even begin to imagine what that was like for them. Amazing things coming. So obviously, from what I heard, stock price has dropped off almost immediately. I think the stock shot up when things went well, and then they dumped it or something. All that is on Reddit. I don't know. The short sellers always think they're going to get the biggest benefit out of that. Who cares? All I can see is that Virgin Galactic executed at an important moment where Virgin Orbit had a serious problem. And that is going to be all of the difference. Now that they've demonstrated that not only can this be done, it can be done for paying customers who are doing serious science. I believe that investments are going to fall a lot easier for Virgin Galactic as they continue to ramp up towards building a progressively larger fleet of ships and start working towards that long-term objective of launching a spacecraft at least once a week, if not more frequently than that. And also, I think they're probably going to secure a lot of additional ticket sales. They'll probably get a lot of down payments for future tickets, and the waiting list is very long. There's 400 or so people who have already purchased their tickets in advance. It's going to take a long time for Virgin Galactic to get through that entire list. But then again, if they are launching a spacecraft once a week, and if they have multiple spacecraft accomplishing the same thing, who knows? You might get as much as a couple hundred flights a year and plow through a wait list of 400 flights pretty quickly. But all that is in the future. Right now, Virgin Galactic has taken an incredibly important first step. Matthew, thank you so much for the £5. Really do appreciate that. Can't believe people are paying $300,000 plus for 4 minutes of zero G 30. But yeah, it is an expensive endeavor, no question. But if you want to experience space, this is definitely the least expensive way to do it right now, even if it is only for a few minutes. If you actually want to go to space, or, some people argue it isn't space. If NASA says it's space, it's space. But, it is currently the least expensive way. The long term objective for Virgin Galactic, once they get a big fleet of ships, is to start charging $50,000 a ticket instead of 450,000. And I think that's what a lot of us are looking forward to. But even if they don't, in the short run, we are looking at an opportunity for scientific institutions, universities, other organizations that might not have a lot of money to drop on a microgravity or suborbital experiment. If they want to carry out these kinds of things, this is the most affordable way to do it. This opens up lots of opportunities for those sorts of applications, and I think that is a very big deal as well. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe. Also, once again, check the description for various ways to support this content. Thank you so much, by the way, Cynic in Chief, for that last second contribution, and thank you so much for Felix at What About It for paying us a visit today. And as always, guys, stay angry about space.